Pompeii is a city that many people know about because something very bad happened to it. A long time ago, a big volcano called Mount Vesuvius exploded, and it was much, much stronger than the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. Pompeii began its life as a small village way back in the 8th century BC. But as the Roman Empire grew, so did the influence of Rome, and that's when things started to change for Pompeii. What we know from history is that in 89 BC, the Romans transformed this small coastal village into a full-fledged city. As time went by, Pompeii became a top destination for rich people looking to take a break from their busy lives in Rome. There were no smartphones or video games, so people had limited options for having a good time. For many, that meant going to a pub or visiting a brothel. Now, unlike today, where visiting a brothel is generally illegal or frowned upon in many places, in ancient Rome, it was perfectly legal and socially accepted. Going to a brothel in Pompeii was considered as normal as going to the market or shopping for clothes. That might sound strange to us, but it was a part of their culture. In Pompeii, women who worked as prostitutes did their job in small rooms with stone beds. These beds weren't meant to be comfortable. In fact, they were intentionally made uncomfortable to ensure that clients didn't linger too long after their services were done. The rooms were dimly lit to create a sensual atmosphere, and the walls were covered in paintings depicting explicit acts. These paintings essentially served as a menu for the brothel's customers. Some believe they also acted as a guide for those who were less experienced in such matters. Interestingly, these explicit paintings were one reason why the ruins of Pompeii remained hidden for so long. An Italian architect named Domenico Fontana discovered them while planning to dig a canal. However, he felt so ashamed about what he found that he covered the walls and kept it a secret. It wasn't until centuries later that archaeologists uncovered more of the city and eventually found what is believed to be the official brothel of Pompeii, the Lupanar. The Lupanar is the largest known pleasure house in the city, featuring 5 rooms on the ground floor and 5 larger ones on the second floor. It was conveniently located between Pompeii's Forum and its business district, making it easy for the city's aristocrats to have some fun after their daily work and discussions. What's fascinating is that inside these rooms, you can find graffiti etched into the walls by the brothel's patrons, documenting their visits and experiences. Finding the brothel was a unique experience for newcomers to Pompeii. They simply had to follow phallus carvings on various building exteriors, which pointed them in the right direction. While it might seem funny to us now, it was a practical way of guiding people back then. However, as amusing as this all might sound, the history of brothels in Pompeii has a dark side. Most of the prostitutes in Pompeii were actually slaves from conquered nations. They were forced into this line of work against their will, and they never received any payment for their services. They lived in small, windowless rooms that were more like cells than homes. Moreover, once a woman entered or was forced into this profession, she was heavily stigmatized and couldn't find any other work. This effectively locked her into a low societal class. What's interesting is that modern tourism in Pompeii doesn't shy away from this part of the city's history. You can buy plates and bowls with reproductions of the lewd paintings from the Lupanar at souvenir stands. If you can't afford that, you can even get decks of playing cards with the same racy paintings printed on them. It's quite surprising how open they are about this aspect of Pompeii's history. But Pompeii isn't the only place where you can find such historical evidence. Herculaneum, another ancient Roman town buried by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, has revealed similar artworks and suspected brothels. This suggests that prostitution was prevalent in ancient Roman culture. In fact, prostitution was so ingrained in Roman culture that it's mentioned frequently in ancient Roman literature and history. There are tales of prostitutes gaining respectability, which was quite challenging considering the stigma attached to the profession. Some even managed to do this through acts of patriotism, paying taxes, and obeying the law. It's also worth noting that prostitution wasn't just limited to those who made it their full-time job. Even actors and gladiators sometimes worked as prostitutes because it was quite lucrative. Despite the openness about sex in ancient Rome, some lines were drawn. Cato the Elder, an ancient Roman historian, senator, and philosopher, believed that a good Roman man should uphold certain standards of masculinity. He found it shameful for male prostitutes to receive other men as clients and considered it dishonorable for any man to be on the receiving end of such encounters. While there's much debate about the Roman Empire's greatness and its eventual downfall, one thing is certain. The Romans knew how to enjoy life to the fullest. They embraced pleasure and indulgence without hesitation, leaving us with a fascinating glimpse into the past through the history of Pompeii's brothels. The red light districts in the Netherlands share some similarities with the brothels of ancient Pompeii, despite being separated by centuries and cultural differences. Both Pompeii's brothels and the red light districts in the Netherlands were or are legal and socially accepted to varying degrees. In Pompeii, visiting a brothel was not only legal but seen as a routine part of life. In the Netherlands, prostitution has been legalized and regulated, which has created a more open and accepting environment for sex work compared to many other countries. Both locations feature or featured explicit artwork. In Pompeii, the walls of brothels were adorned with paintings depicting sexual acts, which served as a menu of services. In Amsterdam's red light district, the windows where sex workers are displayed are often lit with red lights and can be seen as a form of visual advertising, which can be seen as a modern parallel to Pompeii's explicit artwork. Pompeii and the Netherlands' red light districts attract tourists intrigued by their unique histories. Visitors to both locations can purchase souvenirs related to the sex trade. In Pompeii, you can find plates and playing cards featuring reproductions of explicit artwork. In Amsterdam, there are novelty shops selling items related to the red light district. Both locations have historical significance. Pompeii's brothels provide insight into the sexual mores of ancient Rome, while the red light districts in the Netherlands offer a glimpse into how prostitution has been approached and regulated in more recent history. While sex work is legal and regulated in the Netherlands, there is still a degree of controversy and stigma associated with it. Similarly, while visiting Pompeii's brothels was socially accepted in ancient Rome, there were societal divisions and stigmas associated with sex work, particularly for the prostitutes themselves. In both cases, the clientele of these establishments comes from diverse backgrounds. In Pompeii, it was the wealthy aristocrats, and in Amsterdam's red light district, it's a mix of locals and tourists. It's important to note that while there are these similarities, there are also significant differences, particularly in terms of historical context, societal norms, and legal frameworks. However, these similarities highlight the enduring human interest in and engagement with the topic of sex work throughout history.